it's a transform, but you don't have the ability to set what joints you're using, again, as usual. So let's convert the space just to finish this up. And then let's set this up. So because the gun is part of the pawn, we can leave that as component space. Because they're all floating around in the same. Think of the pawn as basically having like a big bucket, and so everything in that bucket is relative to where that bucket is in space. So if you move the bucket 100 units to the right, and your character is still in the middle of that bucket, its character's component space is still going to be 0, if that makes any sense. And what I found is you can do it in world space, but world spacing can get a little noisy. Component space tends to be a little bit cleaner if you can utilize it. So now we need the end effector. We're going to leave that blank because we're going to feed this information in the event graph. Maintain local rotation relative to the parent. Let's go ahead and leave that on. Now what we could do is we can override that to force the rotation to be whatever that socket is. But let's go ahead and have it keep the rotation based on its animation. That might help keep the grip from looking like it's just glued on. It may still not look 100% correct, but it might look a little bit better. And again, to really nail it, you would actually want to copy the target rotation and then have a joint that is animated so it has rotation to target onto. So now we have to define our IK chains. We're going to start at the top, the upper arm right, and go all the way down to the hand right. Precision and max iterations, that is, as you might imagine, the more iterations you crank it up to, the more times it's going to try to solve, the slower it will be, the more accurate it will be. So if you start getting noise, start cranking your max iterations up. That tends to help a lot. So our only problem here is that we don't know where we're gluing the IK to. We don't have an end effector transform yet. So let's go to the event graph. Now remember, it's got a sub-anim instance, so everything that's happening in the previous anim blueprints event graph is still going to tick. So let's go ahead and come from here, and we're going to cast to our player character BP. And what we need to do is we need to get the gun. Get gun. Okay, from there we need to get that socket. We're going to get the socket transform. Why are we getting a transform instead of a location? Well, this takes a transform. Now, other IK systems only take location, but because you can match the rotation, it needs that data as well. So we could get a location and then simply create a transform from that, but that is kind of a few extra steps, and we can just do it all at once. So the socket name, where's our gun at? Again, let's copy that name. I'll paste that into there. And again, we want to do it in component space because they're both part of the same pawn. Now, if it had to interact with something that was part of another character or an object that wasn't part of the pawn, you might have to use world space. So now, let's go back to our anim graph. We need this as a variable. So if we just drag that off and promote the variable, we can just say left hand position, and in the event graph we will set that. that should work. Let's go back to our atom blueprint, and let's go ahead and assign that to the left-hand IK. And it doesn't look like anything's really changed. Let's see if we can force that to update so it looks a little more obvious that it's working. Just pull this way the hell out here. And no, it doesn't look like IK is working. Oh, might help if I had it on the right arm. That might be a little part of the reason why it's acting up on me. I got these backwards. That might be part of the problem. There we go. Now I'm getting something that I'm reasonably sure is going to be correct. So I got the socket way out here in space just to see if it's working. We're getting closer. The IK is broken, but at least the character's playing. So let's take a look and see what's going on there. Let's go ahead and let's see. This is component space, and that's getting it in component space. Let's go ahead and switch that to world space, since component space is not working like I was hoping it would. Oh, you know why? Because the gun is not in the same spot as the character. That's why component space isn't working. I think that's why. Yeah, there we go. See? And now you can see the arm is pretty much glued to the gun. Now it's pulled off to the side and forward. So let's go ahead and adjust that now that we have it working. Let's go ahead and go back to our gun. Take that socket. We're going to pull it off to the side. We're going to pull it back. Save that. And pretty good. Let's pull it over a little bit more. And you can see it's kind of drifting a little bit. Like it works, and then but if I let go of the stick, it snaps, and for a brief second it loses it. We can help fix that by increasing the iterations. Let's crank that up to 20. And that's looking pretty good. I like that. And that's how you do a simple IK.